The galaxy was old. Stars had burned for billions of years, and civilizations had risen and fallen in the silence of space. Across the black void, great empires had been born, had fought wars, and had vanished into dust. The galaxy had seen many powers, many rulers, and many conquerors. But one truth remained: no empire lasted forever. Now, a new race had come. They called themselves the Veari. They were tall, thin beings, with silver skin and long dark eyes that glowed faintly in the dark. Their ships were like knives of black glass, sharp and silent, cutting through the void. They did not come to conquer. At least, that is what they said. They came looking for allies. The Veari were proud. For centuries, they had fought endless wars on the far side of the galaxy. Their enemies were brutal, cunning, and without mercy. The Veari had survived, but at a cost. Their fleets were damaged, their numbers were smaller, and their empire was tired. They needed help. They needed strong allies. But in the galaxy, no one was strong enough. The smaller species had already bent the knee to the Veari. They offered tribute, resources, and soldiers, but none of them were truly powerful. None of them could fight with courage. None of them could stand when fear was near. So, the Veari searched. They sent fleets into unknown space, seeking someone new, someone strong, someone who could stand beside them in war. It was then they found it. A small blue planet, spinning quietly around a yellow star. At first, it looked unremarkable. The Veari thought it was just another primitive world, filled with creatures who barely understood fire. But then they looked closer. They scanned the planet. They saw the strange patterns of light at night, the towers rising from the ground, the machines flying in the air, the radio signals buzzing through the void. And they realized something. This world was not primitive. It was alive with civilization. And the species living there called themselves humans. The Veari were curious. They had met many species before, but this one felt different. Humans were young compared to the stars, yet they spread across their world like wildfire. They built cities, they fought wars, they reached into space. They were not advanced compared to the Veari. No warp drives, no massive fleets, no planetary weapons. But they had something else. Something strange. Something dangerous. The Veari did not know it yet. But they were about to learn. When the Veari fleet appeared at the edge of the solar system, they expected fear. That was always the first reaction. When their ships, dark as night and sharp as blades, came into view, other species would tremble. Planets would surrender without a fight. Civilizations would send their leaders crawling, begging for mercy, begging for alliance. But humans did not beg. The first signals the Veari sent were calm, almost polite. They announced themselves as travelers, as seekers of allies. Their message was simple: we are the Veari. We search for those strong enough to stand with us. Do not resist. Do not fear. We offer alliance. On Earth, the message caused chaos. Governments panicked. Scientists were shocked. Ordinary people stared at the sky, wondering if it was true. Humanity had long dreamed of life beyond the stars, but dreams were different from reality. Now, reality had come in the form of a fleet that blocked out the stars. But here was the strange thing. Even in panic, humanity did not collapse. The leaders of Earth met. They argued, they shouted, but they did not bow. Instead, they asked questions. Who are these beings? What do they want? What price do they ask? And for the first time, the Veari felt something unusual. Resistance. Not military resistance, not yet. But resistance of spirit. Humans were not afraid in the way others were. They were not ready to kneel. They wanted to understand. They wanted to negotiate. The Veari commander of the fleet, a tall being named Zelak, watched with cold amusement. He had seen this before. Some species were slow to surrender, but all surrendered in the end. Fear always won. Power always won. But as days passed, something gnawed at him. The humans were different. Their history was written in blood and fire. The Vayari studied human archives, their wars, their endless conflicts. The humans had fought themselves for thousands of years, across continents and oceans. They had built empires, destroyed them, and built them again. They had endured famine, plague, disaster, and still they survived. Zelak felt something he had not felt in centuries. Doubt. The fleet moved closer to Earth. The Vayari wanted to test these humans. To see if they were truly strong, or just another loud, foolish race that would crumble under pressure. And so, the first meeting was planned. A massive Vayari ship, black as a shadow, descended into Earth's orbit. It was larger than any human city, a floating fortress with weapons that could melt continents. It hung in the sky like a sword. The world watched. From New York to Tokyo, from Moscow to Cairo, people looked up. Some prayed. Some cursed. Some simply stood in silence. The Vayari sent one final message. Humans, you stand at the edge of history. We come not as conquerors, but as seekers of allies. Show us your strength. Show us your courage. Or fall like the others. And with those words, the test began. The first meeting between two worlds was never going to be simple. For the Vayari, it was routine. They had made contact with dozens of species before. Some had fallen to their knees the moment they saw the great shadow of a Vayari ship. Others had resisted for a short time, but in the end, they always bowed. The Vayari expected the same from humans. But Earth was not like the others. When the Vayari message reached the governments of Earth, the leaders did not rush to obey. They did not send gold, or slaves, or armies as tribute. Instead, they gathered in a storm of meetings. The United Nations became the center of the world, and for the first time in history, almost every nation sent a voice. Inside the Great Hall, fear was heavy, but so was pride. Some leaders said, "We must accept. These beings are beyond us. Look at their ships. Look at their power. If we resist, they will crush us." But others argued, "We must stand firm. We do not know their true purpose. If we bow now, we will never rise again." The debate raged for days. The world outside trembled. Crowds filled the streets, eyes fixed on the skies where the Black Vayari fortress hung in orbit. News stations showed endless images of the alien ship, comparing it to cities, mountains, and even continents. Nothing on Earth was bigger. Nothing on Earth was scarier. And yet, humanity did not break. The Vayari commander, Zelak, grew impatient. He had expected surrender within hours. Instead, humans argued, questioned, and delayed. He decided to force the issue. The Vayari announced, "We demand representatives. Come to us. Step into our halls and prove your worth." The humans agreed, but not in the way Zelak expected. A small group was chosen: scientists, diplomats, and soldiers. They were not slaves, not servants, but equals sent to talk, to learn, and to negotiate. This was strange. Most species sent their leaders crawling. Humans sent their leaders standing tall. When the shuttle left Earth and rose toward the alien ship, the world held its breath. Billions watched through screens as the small human craft approached the giant fortress of the Vayari. It was like a bird flying into the mouth of a dragon. Inside the shuttle, the human team sat in silence. Each felt the weight of history pressing down. No one had ever spoken to beings from another world before. No one knew if they would live to return. Dr. Elena Vargas, a scientist from Spain, broke the silence. "Remember," she whispered, "they expect fear. Don't give it to them." General Marcus Kane, a soldier with steel in his eyes, nodded. "If they want to test us, they'll see what humans are made of." The shuttle docked. The doors opened, and for the first time in history, humans stepped into an alien world. The Vayari ship was vast and cold. The walls were smooth black metal, glowing faintly with blue veins of light. The air smelled strange, sharp, almost metallic. And standing there to greet them were the Vayari themselves. They were tall, at least 2 meters, thin, graceful, and inhumanly calm. Their silver skin reflected the lights, and their long black eyes stared without blinking. They did not smile. They did not show warmth. Zelak himself came forward. His voice was deep, cold, and without emotion. "Humans," he said. "You stand before the Vayari. We came seeking allies. We offer strength. We offer protection. But we demand respect. Do not test our patience." General Kane stepped forward. His heart pounded, but his voice was steady. "We thank you for the invitation. But understand this, humanity does not kneel. If you seek allies, speak with us as equals. If you seek slaves, you will be disappointed." The Vayari hall fell silent. Zelak tilted his head. No one had ever spoken to him like this before. No one had dared. Yet here was a small creature from a small world, standing with steel in his voice. For the first time, the Vayari commander felt curiosity. Maybe, just maybe, this species was different. The first meetings had shaken the galaxy's balance. For the Vayari, humans were still a mystery, bold in speech, but weak in technology. Zelak, the commander, wondered if their courage was only words. He wanted proof. He wanted to see if humanity's strength was real, or just noise in the wind. So the Vayari made a decision. They would test humanity. Not with words, but with fire. The test came quietly. One night, without warning, a Vayari ship entered Earth's upper atmosphere. It did not fire its main weapons. That would have destroyed cities in an instant. Instead, it released a swarm of drones. Black machines with wings like blades, buzzing down toward the planet. They were meant to scare, to show power, to force humans to submit. The drones spread across the skies of 3 cities, London, Beijing, and New York. They hovered like vultures, scanning, recording, and watching. They made no attack, but their presence alone sent waves of fear through the streets. The Vayari waited for panic. They expected humans to scream, to run, to fall to their knees. But that didn't happen. Instead, alarms rang. Sirens howled. Soldiers poured into the streets. Fighter jets roared into the skies. Tanks rolled forward. Police and civilians stood together. And most surprising of all, the humans fought back immediately. In London, one of the black drones hovered above the River Thames. Suddenly, a missile streaked upward from a hidden launcher and tore it apart in a burst of flame. The crowd below cheered, not screamed. In Beijing, jets swarmed into the sky, chasing the drones like hawks after prey. Pilots fired missile after missile, bringing down one machine after another. In New York, hackers broke into the drone's signals. Screens across the city suddenly flickered, showing the drone's own cameras. Humanity was not afraid. They were watching the enemy through its own eyes. The Vayari were stunned. Most species begged for mercy when the drones appeared. Humans answered with fire, steel, and clever tricks. They had no plasma cannons, no warp drives, no gravity weapons. But they had something else, resourcefulness. They used old technology in new ways. They hacked, jammed, and tricked the drones. They fought with every tool they had. And slowly, the sky began to clear. Zelak watched from orbit. His cold silver eyes narrowed. "Impossible," he whispered. One of his officers turned, confused. "Commander, they are destroying the drones. Their weapons are primitive, yet they succeed." Zelak did not answer. His mind turned over the images again and again. He had expected fear. Instead, he saw defiance. He had expected panic. Instead, he saw courage. And then he saw something more. He saw humans smiling as they fought. Not with joy, but with determination. He saw them adapt, coordinate, and strike back harder each time. Zelak realized something dangerous. This species was not just stubborn. They were dangerous because they refused to break. On Earth, the victories spread like wildfire. People cheered in the streets. News anchors shouted with excitement, We brought them down. Children pointed at the skies and said, "We can fight them." For the first time since the alien arrival, fear turned into pride. Humanity had shown teeth. General Kane stood in the command center of NORAD, his fists clenched. He looked at the burning wreckage of the last drone falling over the Rockies and said one sentence that spread across the world. "If they want a test, we will give them war." The room erupted in cheers. But far above, in the cold halls of the Vayari ship, Zelak stood in silence. His officers argued, some calling for destruction, others for retreat. But Zelak said nothing. For deep in his mind, a question burned. Had the Vayari made a mistake? Had they found allies? Or had they just woken monsters? The news of Earth's defiance spread faster than light. The galaxy had always seen the Vayari as untouchable. Their fleets were shadows of death, their weapons sharp enough to silence entire worlds. Most species obeyed them without question. None dared to resist. But now, a young species from a small blue world had done the impossible. They had not surrendered. They had not begged. They had fought. And worse, they had won. Across the stars, whispers grew. On mining colonies, on trade stations, in the palaces of kings and the dens of smugglers, one sentence repeated again and again. The humans destroyed Vayari drones. At first, many laughed. It had to be a lie. No primitive race could stand against the Vayari. But then came the recordings. Footage from satellites, hacked by human hands, spread across the galactic nets. Images of drones exploding, of fighter jets striking, of crowds cheering. The galaxy watched in silence. For the weak species who lived in fear, the news was a spark of hope. If humans could stand, maybe they could too. For the powerful empires, it was a warning. This new species was not to be underestimated. And for the Vayari, it was humiliation. On the flagship, Zelak stood in the great chamber of command. His officers shouted, their voices sharp and angry. "They mock us. We must crush them now, before the galaxy sees us as weak. Send the fleet, burn their cities, end this before it grows." But Zelak raised a hand, and silence fell. His black eyes glowed faintly as he spoke. "No. We will not destroy them. Not yet. They are different. We came seeking allies, not corpses. If they can fight our drones, then perhaps they are what we need. But we must be certain. We must see their true nature." Deep inside, though, Zelak was unsettled. The humans had not shown their full power yet, and that terrified him. He had expected weakness. Instead, he had seen cleverness, unity, and something darker, enjoyment. Humans fought with smiles. They adapted like predators. They bled and laughed at the same time. They reminded him of something he had not seen in centuries. They reminded him of the enemies who once nearly destroyed the Vayari themselves. On Earth, the atmosphere had changed. Fear had not vanished. The Vayari ship still hung in the sky like a black sun, and everyone knew the aliens could destroy the planet in hours if they wished. But fear had mixed with something new. Pride. For the first time in history, the nations of Earth worked together. Scientists shared data across borders. Generals coordinated defenses as if there were no flags, only one species. Hackers from rival countries formed secret groups, united by a single purpose: fight back. It was as if the alien threat had awakened something deep in humanity's blood. Something old. Something violent. Something unstoppable. The galaxy began to see it too. A small merchant race, the Telari, watched the broadcasts with wide eyes. Their leader whispered, "If the humans can fight the Vayari, perhaps they can protect us too." In another corner of space, a rival empire, the Drakari, laughed with cruel delight. "So the Vayari have found their match. Let them bleed. Let us see how they like fear." And in the darkest corners of the galaxy, whispers grew louder. The humans are not prey. They are predators. The Vayari soon learned this truth firsthand. When they sent a second wave of drones, stronger, faster, deadlier. They expected revenge. But humanity was ready. This time, the drones were met not only with weapons, but with traps. In the deserts of Africa, false signals lured drones into ambushes where missiles waited. In the forests of South America, soldiers used camouflage and guerrilla tactics, striking and vanishing. In the seas, submarines rose from the depths and fired torpedoes that split drones apart. Everywhere, humans adapted. Every day, their resistance grew sharper. And every drone that fell was a message. A message not just to the Veyari, but to the galaxy. We are not weak. We are not prey. We are human. For the first time in centuries, the Veyari felt fear. It was not the fear of defeat. Their fleet was still massive, their weapons unmatched. No, it was a deeper fear. The fear of what humanity could become. If this was what they could do with primitive weapons, what would happen when they reached the stars? What would happen when humanity turned its gaze not only to defend Earth, but to strike back? The Veyari had faced many enemies before. They had conquered worlds, destroyed fleets, and bent entire civilizations to their will. But humanity was unlike anything they had ever seen. Zelak, the commander, watched Earth from orbit, the small blue planet glowing beneath him. Ships had been sent to test the humans again, but each test only revealed more. Humans were clever, fearless, relentless, and united. They did not falter. They adapted. They struck back with precision, with strategy, with cunning that the Veyari had never expected. For the first time, Zelak felt something he had never allowed himself to feel: respect. But it was mixed with fear. The Veyari held a council aboard their flagship. Their officers shouted, argued, and demanded retaliation. The galaxy had never seen such chaos among them before. Some called for annihilation, saying humans were too dangerous to live. Others warned caution: destroying Earth would only reveal the Veyari's weakness to the rest of the galaxy. Zelak stood silently. His black eyes scanned the council. Every voice, every word, every plan, none seemed correct. The humans had already proven something fundamental. They could not be predicted. They could not be intimidated. They could not be controlled. Finally, Zelak spoke. We came seeking allies. We sought strength. We thought to find followers, subjects, partners. Instead, we have discovered monsters in human skin. We cannot destroy them. We cannot conquer them. We can only watch and wait and learn. Earth, meanwhile, did not celebrate. Humanity had survived. They had fought back and proven they were not weak. They had shown the galaxy that they could fight, that they could endure, and that they could win. But humans knew that this was only the beginning. The Veyari had not yet revealed all their power. The galaxy beyond Earth was full of unknown threats, waiting for the moment to test humanity. General Kane stood in the command center, looking at the maps of the world and the stars beyond. He did not smile. This is only the beginning, he said. We have teeth. But now we need claws. Scientists, diplomats, and soldiers nodded in agreement. Humanity had shown courage, but survival required more than courage. It required preparation. The Veyari fleet left orbit silently, their black ships fading into the stars. They did not retreat out of fear. They left because they recognized something humans could not yet see: the future. Humanity had the potential to become a force unlike any other in the galaxy. Zelak's last transmission to Earth was simple, direct, and terrifying. We came seeking allies. We found predators. We leave you with this message: the galaxy has seen you. Do not forget, the universe will test you. Prepare, or perish. Humans received the message with calm determination. No one panicked. No one cowered. The world watched the Black Fleet disappear, and then, slowly, humans went back to work. They built better defenses, stronger weapons, faster ships. They trained, planned, and learned. The test of the Veyari had not broken them. It had strengthened them. Across the stars, the ripple of humanity's defiance spread. Other alien species whispered in fear and awe. The weak felt hope. The strong felt caution. The galaxy began to change. The name of a small blue planet, Earth, began to carry weight. Humans, for the first time, understood their place. They were no longer an unknown species. They were not prey. They were a storm waiting in the void. And they had only just begun. The final words echoed across human communications, passed from one person to another. The universe asked for help. Humanity answered, not with submission, not with fear, but with shock and terror. And in the silence of space, where stars burned cold and civilizations trembled, a single truth remained. The galaxy would never forget the humans. The predators in human skin had arrived. And they were ready.